What's going on, everyone? You're welcome once again to David Data Channel. On this channel, we talk about data science, productivity, and faith. And on today's video, we're continuing our data expert series. Now, our last series, you can check that video in the link in the description below and the link in the description above. We talked about experimentation with Zion Piboe. And on today's video, we're talking about data management from a simplified perspective that will provide value to both technical and non-technical stakeholders in the data industry. I'm going to have this conversation is Adaugo Okafor. Adaugo Okafor is senior data practitioner based in Lagos, Nigeria. She has a wealth of experience ranging from finance industry to consulting industry and also international experience as well, right? So I'd like her to just introduce herself at this point to give us an understanding of her and her experience. You're welcome, Adaugo, to the webinar.
All right, thank you, David. Thank you for the introduction. It's such a huge pleasure to be here with you today. So my name is Adaugo Okafor. I'm currently a senior data professional working in the analytics and operations team, and I've had like a wealth of experience, like a broad range of experience, building models, reports, dashboards, developing strategies, as well as implementation roadmaps for companies. There's also the bit around data governance frameworks and policies for clients. So that's like that falls under the purview of the kind of things that I currently do. So yeah, I guess I'll just leave it at that for now.
All right, thanks so much, Ada. Thanks so much. Really nice to have you here. And just to add, those of you who are based in Lagos, Nigeria, who know Ivy of Fidelity Bank, the boots for Fidelity Bank, she was part of the team that actually built that product. Right. So nice to have you here, Ada. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're talking about data management, right? And it's not a topic that is very well known in the industry or being spoken about more often compared to data engineering or data analytics or business intelligence. Or rather, not much is said about data management. And then people don't really know so much about it, right? And our audience are technical people and also non-technical people. So I would like, from an introductory standpoint, for you to maybe define and then go a little bit further to explain to technical and non-technical audience really what data management is all about, right? And then maybe a little sneak peek into how you use data management on a daily basis. That's the thing to give us to hit the ground rolling.
All right. So I completely agree with you around data management not being so not much talked about in the industry today. Everyone is more concerned about analytics, building models, and all of that. And I think it's more of, that whole rush about, oh, someone is doing this and you want to do the exact same thing without making the required research. So data management is basically what would help an organization build like a very strong foundation for analytics to thrive. Without data management, you would struggle to find value from your analytics program. And that is what we find a lot of times. I mean, you would find like 1 in 10 companies that would actually say to you that, oh, we can see the value that analytics brings to the business, other than just your normal reporting and having a sense of what happens behind the scene. But when it comes to predicting, forecasting, you would hardly find companies that would say that they've had a lot of value from analytics. And the major problem most of the times is this lack of that foundation that's required. So data management is what would help you build a sustainable program, is what will help you build that foundation that you require for analytics to thrive, is what will help you understand the challenges of analytics in your current environment. So there are lots of things that it would bring to the fore for you and your organization, basically. So I would just say that data management is something that we have not really explored, and it's like an untapped potential for organizations. How do you manage that vast of data that you currently have? How do you ensure that things are done the right way? Basically, what are the processes? What are the policies that you set in place to make sure that things are done the right way? So that's, that falls under the purview of what data management oversees on a daily basis. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Really robust introduction to data management. Thanks so much, Ada. Now, you also pointed out that a lot of businesses tend to focus more on things that they can actually see that's closer to the business, right? Like the business analytics, modeling, and all that
Mm-hmm.
kind of a thing. So typically, I would want to ask, how would businesses want to go into data management? Say, for example, if a startup starts a business startup comes up, they typically will not be thinking about data management. They will be thinking about how can we use data we have to make decisions, right? So how do you advise businesses to navigate these two crossroads? I hope you understand my point already. Right, there's a crossroad of deciding to go to data management that may not have
Yeah.
immediate value versus picking your BI right now that can help you solve immediate value sort of thing, right? How business navigate that crossroads?
All right, so I think that, one of the interesting things about this is it's not what's the word? It's not set in stone. You have to do it a particular way. It's more like something that you can customize to your environment, something you can customize to your current needs. So if it's a case of, I'm just starting out, what do I need to do? That's a kind of analysis that you would have to perform. Say, I'm like you said, a startup that's just upcoming, and then you have data, or you're planning to set up some kind of structure for your data. So basically, first off, I would say understand what you're trying to achieve, and that's why we have to have a data
Pyramid, yeah.
management program. So for example, I start out this business, like you said.
Okay.
So I'm sure you have a business strategy. You have a goal in mind. This is what I want to achieve from my business, and this is the kind of value that I want to get out, and I want to make revenue. Definitely, no one is running a business without making money from that. So you want to also understand, how would data help me achieve this? So there's a part around, oh, I need to have a data strategy. I'm not just going to come out of the blues and just say, okay, yes, value. What's the word? I want to, there's this buzzword, data-driven decisions. I want
Okay.
to make
Yeah.
data-driven
Data driven.
decisions. You have to
Right.
lay the foundation for that,
Mm.
regardless of how large or how minute your organization may be. So that's why the first thing that you want to talk about or you want to assess is your data strategy. What's my business strategy, and how will my data strategy help me to fuel, my objectives for my business? So that's basically what it has to be. You need to understand how data will drive your business strategy. That's where you can then start building on, okay, what's the next thing I need to do? How do I want to position this? How do I want to build my table structures, my databases, architecture and all of that. So basically, it has to come off of understanding your business strategy and building a data strategy that
Okay,
drives
that.
or fuels that business strategy. So that would
Wow.
be like my advice upfront.
Wow. Wow. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much. Now, in that same line, how do you advise established businesses already? Businesses that have been running for years, who perhaps maybe they have BI running, they even have some models running, but at the end of the day, you find out that they really don't have any data management framework or policies going on. So, how do you advise for them to make that shift?
So, when would data governance become an important consideration for the business? And someone talked about when stakeholders lack trust in the the results of analytics. Let's say that you build dashboards, you build reports, and then you're saying, oh, this is the value, this is the metric, this is the value of this metric, and one of the business stakeholders is telling you that's not my number. I don't know what
Mm.
that is, but it doesn't represent my number at all. That's one of the red flags to know that there's something wrong, because if this person is saying something else and you're reporting something else, there's a problem somewhere, right? So that's definitely one of the red flags to look out for. And someone told me something recently. So she said that in her organization, the values that you find in the table, like the database, is not exactly useful for analytics. Like there's a disconnect between the engineering team and what
Yeah.
her team does with
Yeah.
the data that currently sits on there. So today you go there and you see that the tables are reading these particular values, like they're reporting a particular metric or field.
Yeah.
The next day they've changed it to something else based on their discretion, whatever they
Hmm.
think is useful.
Hmm.
And that misalignment is definitely a pointer that something needs to be done. People can't just change structures of tables or put in whatever fields they think is useful at any point in time. There needs to be like a central governance and management for that. So now back to your question. I just wanted to point out these things because these are
Okay.
like
Yeah.
actual
Yeah.
problems that
Yeah.
you find
Yeah.
in businesses today. So for such businesses, for very big businesses that don't even have a strategy and they're just doing some kind of analytics work, I think that one of the things they can do is perform a current state assessment. So you want to
Mm.
look at your business right now and look through the different data management capabilities. So we have data quality management, we have analytics management, we have data governance. So you want to assess the business based on these different capabilities.
Mm.
How am I performing here? How well is my data quality today? You want to build KPIs off of those things. So basically, what I'm saying is you need to assess the business currently, how they're
Yeah.
performing with regards to all of these capabilities. So when you assess them currently and you then understand where they are at, you can then agree a target state, maybe where they want to be in the next 2 years, where they want to be in the next 3 years, and then chart a plan. That's where you create a roadmap kind of for them to work towards their target state. So in that case, part of that your roadmap is going to be how you're going to set up the data management office, the data governance councils, and all of that. So it's a case of understanding where they currently are and then how they want to move to their target objective or their target state, basically. So that would be my response to that question.
Wow, awesome, awesome. Thanks so much, Ada. Thanks so much. So I'm going to ask, data management, should it be something that a beginner data professional should be concerned about? So when people come into data, they are, oh, I want to be a data analyst or data engineer or data scientist. Should people come in and say, I want to be a
Yeah.
data management professional, data management expert? Is that something that comes with the rules as a beginner, or you would have to start from the foundation, understand all that
So
things, and then, yeah,
yeah, so I think that because of how things are currently, it's more like if you come out to say, I'm a data management this,
mhm,
people might not exactly look at you because the roles you would see, especially in our environment in Nigeria, you would
yeah,
see data analyst, data analyst, data analyst, data engineer, and all of that. So it's not what would quickly come to you as an important role in the field.
yeah.
So I think that there should be opportunities like this, right? There should be people who are more focused on helping to build and maintain the data management framework or data management structures for organizations. But it's just a case of, are there such opportunities? Do people even know that such roles exist to even give
Yeah,
such people the
the
um, the
opportunity.
opportunity? Yes. So I think that it's definitely something that's useful. It's just that maybe we're downplaying it a lot, or we don't just yet see the value, and that's why it's not a big thing yet. But I think that with time, because I see that some companies are now, trying to develop strategies, trying to lay foundations in place that would help them, derive value from the analytics. So maybe with time, right? But I mean, what you would find right now is a lot of people who have this knowledge already have like data analytics skills and all of that. Maybe they just stumbled upon it and then they're building their skills in that regard. So,
Wow, wow. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Ada, for that thought. And just to add, I feel like part of the reasons is because the data ecosystem is still growing, and we're yet to standardize the whole process. So
mm-hmm,
think of a field like accounting. Over the years, they've standardized the process, know what works, and so you're
mm-hmm,
just basically picking those standardized processes and applying it. And but for data ecosystem generally worldwide, things are still being standardized, right? I think even the issue you talked about, where the engineers just back end change some stuff on the table without reference to data guys, something that happens all the time. And I think last year there was conversation that was going on about data contracts, and which makes me begin to think that means data contracts would probably be within data management, right? Because that would really help
mm-hmm,
to bring synchronization between both teams. That's the thing. Okay, so the data management framework book of knowledge, right, has 12, 11 rather, 11 body of knowledge, right? That's correct. Data governance, data architecture, data quality, metadata, data security, data storage and operations, data modeling and design, data integration and interoperability, data warehousing and BI, reference and master data, documents and content, big data, big analytics and big data. And at the top of the pyramid, as we see, like you said earlier on, what's at the top is BI and data analytics, but at the bottom of it is data governance. But that foundation, people just leave that foundation, data quality, and jump to the first part. Now, in terms of skills, um, how would you recommend people to upskill to get the necessary foundation? Because, like you said, you may be doing your BI, your analytics, but then you start having doubts, start having trust issues with your stakeholders, and that should cause concern for you to want to have these things in place. But then you may not have necessary knowledge to do it. Setting up the data governance policy, trying to look at quality, architecture, and stuff like that. So, what kind of training recommendations would you recommend for people to say, oh, I'm going to have these issues in my business, in my company, my data team, and I want to solve this thing. So, how would you advise them to move forward?
I think that's a very good question. So there are a lot of frameworks that would basically provide that guidance, sort of like a blueprint for you to establish a data management program. There's DAMA, the one you talked about, that's DMbok, Data Management Book of Knowledge. There's also DCAM, which is the one I did, Data Management Capability Assessment Model. And I think there are some others. Some firms even have theirs, because I know PwC has theirs, KPMG has theirs as well. So all of this is basically like a blueprint, like a rule book to help you establish your data management program. So I think that yes, you can, explore one of those trainings. And another thing I want to highlight is trying to establish something like this is not it's not something you can do on your own. You need to get stakeholder buy-in. They need to see the importance of why they need to have this setup, right? So it's not a case of, oh, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to implement it in my organization. Your stakeholders have to endorse it, because it's like a full-blown program, well dependent on the size of your organization. So it's definitely something that you'd want to explore. If you think it's useful, then you may have to sell it to the stakeholders so that they have your support, or rather, you have their support, because you're going to need to interact with people from their teams. And if someone is not willing, if someone is pushing back, you can always get their bosses to put them in place, kind of. So really what I want to highlight is it's not something that you can do on your own. It's something that you need the support of your executive stakeholders, basically.
Wow, thanks so much, Ada. So, guys, you want to get your data governance and data management framework from your organization because they begin to see some of these symptoms of the underlying problem, then you need to get your stakeholders involved in this. Okay, so a question I want to ask is so a lot of data professionals
Of course.
are very technical, data engineers, ML engineers, and all that kind of a thing.
Mhm.
Should they bother about data management?
Well, I would say that it's something that should be a concern to them, right? It's You
Okay.
don't want to put in a lot of work and it's not really reflecting out there, and
Hmm.
nobody's exactly seeing the value of the work you're doing. So maybe it may not be your core job function, but it should definitely be a concern to you. If someone is raising a concern somewhere, you should be paying attention. If a program like this is set up in your organization, it should be a huge concern to you, because it's very critical to the work and the value that you bring to the table. So maybe for very technical people, it might not be your job technically. Like,
Yeah,
it's not your
yeah.
job to make sure that things work a certain way, to build a sustainable program,
Okay.
but it should be a huge concern to you. You should be one of the major supporters of that program. So yeah, that's what I think.
Wow, awesome. That means in the coming years, we'll probably start having data management rules open, like a data management officer, that kind of a thing. Do you see that happening in nearest future?
Yeah. Well, I've already seen a lot of those roles, but not in Nigeria.
Wow,
Like, you find
wow,
data
wow,
management analyst and all of
wow.
that, but they are not so prevalent here in Nigeria. So I think what's this role? CDO, the
Yeah.
chief data officer. That's what you
Mm-hmm.
find a lot in a lot of banks
Nigeria.
in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So I think that that's part of their function,
Okay.
to
Okay.
establish this
Yeah.
structure in the organization. So maybe not exactly data management analysts. I mean, there are even data management professionals. Like, I know of some banks that have this already set up, but maybe
Wow.
they're still, trying to make it properly, like standardize the whole thing. But I know it's something that's gradually coming up. Um, I think with time, yes, with time, you would see a lot more of those roles. That's what I would think. But outside of Nigeria, yes, I've seen a lot of roles like that.
Wow, wow, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. So I would like us to take it down a little bit, like break it further a little bit. So part of the one of the or rather the foundation of the data management framework, that's the DMbok, right? It's what's it called? Is data governance. So
Mm-hmm.
could you throw more light? So it's in my mind, it's almost as though data governance is within data management, right? It's part of the thing that makes data management. But however, today
Mm-hmm.
when people say data management, talk of the mind data governance. So could you just throw a little light into data governance and what it's really all about?
So let me try to make this distinction. In my opinion, data governance is a subset of data management. Data management is everything around how you would manage your data from the
Yeah.
point of its creation to the point
Yeah.
where it's no longer useful. Maybe you want to delete it or just destroy it. So data management is everything within the life cycle of your data. So even when you're defining your data strategy, that forms under your data management. Even when you're defining policies in your data governance framework, that also forms part of data management. So your data governance is simply, the okay. So I would say it's the backbone of your data management process or your data management program. So the success of your data management program is largely dependent on, data governance. So, yeah, data governance is, the process of defining roles, responsibilities, policies, processes, procedures, whatever that is required to help you manage data within your organization. So let's say that you've created your strategy and you want to achieve this with your data. I would say that data governance is what helps you enforce whatever it is you have agreed to do. So you have a data governance council, you have people with assigned responsibilities, you have your data stewards, you have people who know what they're responsible for. And they are also making sure that people are doing, or rather they are acting in line with what roles or responsibilities have been given to them. So it's just a way of enforcing and making sure that, okay, we've defined this is the new law, this is what we should do, and we're making sure that everybody, obeys that or follows that process that has been defined. So that's just a simple way to define what your data governance policy is, right? Or rather your data governance
Governance.
structure should look like. So yeah, so maybe you would have like a council, and then you define policies, you define processes, and then these people have to make sure that people are doing the right thing at every point in time. So even if your data strategy changes the next year, maybe you would have to revise your metrics or your KPIs or the things that you would normally track, just to make sure that things are done the right way in your organization, basically. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, that makes lots of sense. Lots of sense. Thanks so much, Ada. Really, it's really been quite an insightful conversation, especially for businesses, data professionals as well, who do not who you are previously before now do not really care so much about data management. It's important you put that even as you're trying to get certifications in data engineering or analytics engineering, you should also try to arm yourself with that too, so you can see your work getting the most value it requires in the business space and for stakeholders. So the last question I'm going to ask from my point would be around data quality. A lot of businesses
Hmm.
today do not really pay so much importance to data quality. I guess part of the reason is because they don't have data management framework, right, that defines data quality for them to help them get this stuff done. But then how basically, just how do you advise businesses to improve their data quality, both as a professional and businesses as a whole, from a small scale as a data professional and big scale for businesses and organizations, from point of creation to storage to downstream users?
Yeah, so for me, I would say that you know I've seen the really, really complex cases of data quality issues, and I think sometimes it's also a case of having multiple data sources. So maybe this team would refer to this source that they maintain internally, and this other team is also referring to another source. At the end of the day, these people come up with different numbers, and they're like, what are you saying? I don't understand what you're saying. So I think it's a case of assessing the data sources that currently exist. What even exists in our data architecture or in our databases? How are things set up? You want to avoid all these cases of siloed data sources. First of all, I think that you need to start from a case of data discovery. What exists in the business?
Mm.
Is this still useful? Is this still valid data? Because to be honest, I'm talking about this from a perspective of maybe
Yeah.
a very large business that has a lot of things, and people leave. Let's say that this team had like 5 people, and then these 5 people used to work with this data source, and then maybe everybody leaves, somebody else comes and is referencing something else. That's why it's very important to have a program that is sustainable, so a program that enforces continuity, so that even if somebody is not here tomorrow, you're still doing things the way that has been done. You're still following the agreed processes or policies that are already in place. So that's one of, I would say that, always try to understand what exists in the data in the business, like the data that exists in the business. That's around data discovery, and also building data catalogs. That way you can document what you found. You can document what you found, understand which is the correct source. If something is no longer relevant, there's no point keeping it there, so that it
Mm.
doesn't cause confusion in business. And also, I would say that profile your data, develop KPIs or metrics that would help you track the
Mm.
quality of your data.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something that also has to be enforced by the data governance team as well. So maybe, at our last meeting, we said that this is the KPI, this is our KPI, this is where we want to be. We want to improve our quality to this point. You then create, plans as to how do we do this, how do we improve this, gradually. I think it's just a case of planning very well. That's why you need your data governance structure in place. You understand what exists, and you understand how to improve what currently exists to what you want it to be. And that's where you're going to have KPIs, you're going to have plans as to how to deal with certain issues that you may have noticed in data. So all of that is what I would advise.
Wow.
So maybe I should just try to summarize everything I've said. Your data discovery, building data catalogs, yeah, profiling the data that you have, and then developing KPIs to help you track the progress that you're making with your data cleansing, and whatever, also, that's why I talk about continuity. Whatever it is you're doing, make sure that it continues across board, so that you don't go back experiencing what you've already dealt with before, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I would say from the top of my head to manage data quality within an organization. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That in itself is very rich. Very, very rich. I am taking down some notes myself. So guys, you're trying to solve a data quality in your organizations, profile your data, build your data catalogs. There are tools out there to help you do this in a very simple way. Microsoft has the Microsoft Azure Purview. There are open source tools as well, like Monte Carlo, several tools there. And them also develop KPIs to
Yeah.
track quality of your data. I think I read this book by Monte Carlo, Data Quality Fundamentals, and there for the first time I saw that you could actually have KPIs that help you track your metadata to check your quality. Really interesting stuff, right? So,
Yeah.
guys, let's do this and help our businesses get the most value out of their data. So, Ada,
Yeah.
it was really
And sorry, before you
yeah, yeah,
before you go
mm,
on, I wanted to add something. You talked about tools, and I think for me, I try to de-emphasize tools to focus more on people and processes, because I
mm,
feel like sometimes you might have all of the tools, and if people are still not doing the right thing, nothing
yeah,
is going to change. So for
mm,
me, I would, emphasize um educating people, do the right
okay,
thing,
okay,
build policies, build processes that would last, and not
mm,
just, oh, this tool is going to help solve our problems, and then you're just buying tools
mm,
that nobody would eventually use at the
yeah.
end of the day. So I just wanted to add that part. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for adding that part. Focus on people and processes, not tools. Thanks so much, Ada. It's really been an insightful half hour conversation with you. And yeah, we just have a few minutes left in the time. I don't know if you had final words to say to us. Yeah.
All right. Final words. I think it's been a very good time, having this conversation with you. Yeah, I think, I mean, it's been very good. Basically, I think one of the things that you also pointed out that I wanted to talk about is for already technical people, very technical people. I think even if it's not something that you know or you want to be bothered about, you can just read up about things like this just so you can also contribute and also play your own part effectively in such scenarios or conversations, basically. So I think that data management is something that we should pay a lot of attention to. It's not an afterthought, it's like the very foundation of everything we're going to do with data in our organizations. So that's what I would say.
Wow, wow. Thanks so much, Ada. Thank you so much. So, guys, I'm sure you've gotten a thing or two out of this conversation, out of this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe button, and also share your thoughts in the comment section below. And you can ask questions on the comments. She'll be available to provide answers, and you can also connect with her on LinkedIn as well. Her link to her profile will be in description, is in description below. So do well to follow her and for more thoughts and insights around data management. See you again on the next video. Bye bye.